Hello, Nigel with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back. Part 3 now of the Pocher 1/8 Lamborghini Aventador LP-700. If you remember in part 2 we finished off this front subframe. So that was steps 16, 17, 18 and 19. And now we're moving on to step 20 I believe, or we're moving on to 19, I can't remember now. Basically, as you can see, lots of bits and pieces done. We've got O-rings in there for the bump stops. We've got lots of bits of painting done and everything. And if you haven't seen part 2, go back and have a look. It's all in there, how I got the anodized effect and everything. Go take a look. It's also a good guide for this cabling. If you are building one of these, if you're a fairly new modeler, the instructions are a little bit vague with this plumbing here and everything. So go take a look. Yeah, if you've been watching me, you'll know that I actually started at step 16 because I want to get the front subframe done and I'm going to get the engine and the rear subframe done. The way the instructions go, you do the bodywork first, and then I don't want to have the bodywork hanging around, collecting dust, getting damaged, whatever. So we've done 16, 17, 18, as I said. We've also done 19, so that's the stage we're at now. So that can go over there. Okay, so now we're looking at step 20, and in here we're going to fit the steering rack, we're going to fit the upper and lower wishbones, we're going to fit the uprights, and then we've got the actuators there for the suspension. So you've got one on the right, one on the left, one on the left, one on the right. Remember, this is always looking at the back. The other thing I would recommend, if you haven't seen step 2, don't glue this prop shaft in, and then you can remove it. And it's less risk of it getting snapped off. As you can see, with it sticking out like that, it's quite likely to get broken off when you're doing all this work. So leave that removable. So we've got the steering rack. If you have got the kit, you're looking everywhere like I have for the steering rack, it's actually in the bottom of the box with all the bodywork. It's in there. So I've been looking everywhere for that and then suddenly realised it's probably in there. So we've got the steering rack, we've got all the wishbones and everything, as I say, and all of those parts, along with the parts on the L sprue, which is K024. And all of the other parts are in our plastic tray. You can see we've got all our wishbones here, front and rear. We've got our uprights there, front and rear. And then we've got our rods there, which are going to actuate the suspension. So that's what we're going to be doing now. The first thing I'm going to do is clean the part. Oh, something else I just wanted to mention quickly. If you remember when I did these, remember I had the screw sticking out on one side and the screw flush on the other. Now looking at this, you can see that this shock absorber top, is much thinner than that one. So I got the other two out, and lo and behold, you can see one is much thicker than the other. So you can see that this one is very similar in thickness to that one, okay, but this one is much thicker. So just to do it neatly, we're going to match them up. So what I'm going to do is paint these two. These would obviously normally be for the rear, so I'm going to give these an etch prime and paint them and everything now, and then let them dry off and everything, and then I'm going to swap one of them over. So I'll either have 2 skinnies or 2 fats on the front, and then we'll have 2 skinnies or 2 fats on the back. I wouldn't really worry about it, but I'm not sure if on the back they're going to be visible in the engine bay. I'm not sure. So I just don't think it looks very nice to have one like that with the screw sticking out and one like that. They're all the same part number. The front and the rear are the same part number. So just make your choice or watch my build and see which way we go and which way you want to go. So there we go. So that's those. We're going to get those painted. In fact, I'm going to leave them on the bench there, otherwise I'm going to forget them. So we'll put our subframe over here out of the way so it doesn't get covered. So we've got our steering rack. This is K01010. Why they have to give it such long numbers, I don't know. And you can see on here, they've actually removed the seam here for us, but left the seam all the way around the rest. So I'm going to take a sanding stick or even a file perhaps. Get a file here, we've got a little triangular file there, and we can get in here and remove the mold seams. I'm not really too worried about the mold seams on the gaiters, to be honest, because they would have a mold seam in reality anyway because they're molded rubber. So we'll get all those cleaned up, and we'll get all the other parts off the sprues, have a look at them, get them cleaned up, and then we'll look at getting them tapped. Okay, seams all cleaned up. Use a nice triangular file to get in and clean out the seams on the gaiters there. Seams all the way around here, just in the corners in there and all the way around there. So if you want to do the same as me, you can get in there and do it. So tapping these are going to take the L screw, which is an M2.6 thread. I've just noticed there's some flash on that one, so I'm going to take a little tapered cutter here and just get rid of that bit of flash on that corner. Little cone cutter, little burr they call them. And then we're going to tap this thread in here and we're going to check that the tap remains square. Remember, drills will kind of find their own way, but taps tend not to. They tend to, if you start on an angle, they will continue on an angle. You can see the metal all coming out here. No wonder Moss struggled to get the screws in. I mean, it's hard enough screwing a tap in, you know. I mean, almost through. May as well go all the way through because we can. That is getting really tight in there. Normally when it starts to go tight, it's a sign you've got swarf built up. See, there's big bits of swarf coming out. There we are. So there we go. So that's that. So that's those threads cut in there. We've already got the threads cut in these shock absorber arms here, so that's not part of this stage anyway. For some reason that tap is getting tight on the way out. And I think what's happened, because the material is quite soft, I think what's happening is kind of galling up, almost like when you file aluminium and you get that kind of build up, and I think that's what's happening. So maybe a little bit of lubrication would help in that case. But it's absolutely fine now, so it's probably just building up. But there is a risk, if you're doing this dry, there is a risk that you're going to end up damaging the thread on the way out. But I think we should be okay. I'm just going to grab a 2.6 screw and check that we are good. I'll do that a second. Alright, threads are all good, everything's all good. So that's all that done. Right, so now I'm going to go and get these parts primed, and then we'll get them painted and everything, and then we should be good to go. In the meantime, once I've got them primed, I'm going to be checking the parts we have in the tray here. There's the wishbones and everything. To see if we need any cleanup or anything on them. I don't think we do, because the standard car, the real parts are aluminium and they have a seam around them, so it might be best just to leave them as they are. Right, so I'll see you. Okay, so I've got all these parts out and tapped all the threads as necessary. We've got an M2.6 thread in here, okay, in the top of the front upright. We've got an M2.6 thread in the lower wishbone, and we've got M2.6 threads in the reaction rods, whatever you call them. They're the arms that work off the bottom wishbone and push on the shock absorbers. So so they're all tapped. You can also see I've filled ejector pin marks in the backs of the uprights and in these, probably being a bit over fussy. The manufacturers have actually removed the seam from the outside of the wishbones, but not the inside, so we'll remove that. Only because it looks terrible. In reality, they're there in real life. They actually have those seams. One thing that is a little disappointing, you can see on this one, you can see we've got a nice radius here, and they've gone round and ground away the step. On this one, they've decided to go a bit far and take a big chunk off it. So I'm going to have to build that up, I think, because that's going to bug me now when I look at it, even though it's probably going to be hidden within the wheel rim. But in fact, I'm not sure if you are actually going to see it at all. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So yeah, I'll put something on there, I think, to build that up. So there we go. So I just got to wait for this super glue to dry, and then we'll sand out the ejector pin marks. Okay, moving along. As you can see, everything's done now, all painted. We've got rid of the ejector pin marks from the suspension. Painted in the rubber boots for the ball joints in the rubber black. We've done those rubber boots there, as you can see. We've got the boots here painted. Steel racks all done. I wanted to add some colour just to add some interest to this area here. So I got out my titanium silver and my titanium gold, X31, X32, and to my horror, they have turned to jelly. So I've ordered some more, so that'll be coming. Hopefully I can get in and paint those when they're actually in situ. I just want to add some interest, that's all, just so it looks good when it's being built. So yeah, so all those ejector pin marks are gone and everything. There was no need to paint these because those rods are absolutely fine. The only reason I've painted all this because I got rid of all the seams and everything. As I said, I'm doing all this painting. You don't have to, I just am. The uprights had ejector pin marks in the back, and as you can see, we've got one there still visible. It's only just, but it's not a problem. These four in here were quite nasty, so I've dealt with them, but you can still see them, so I've sanded them out. I'm not going to bother repainting these again because, as I mentioned earlier, when I build the back, I'm going to build up this unit with the brake hub, with the brake disc and everything on it, and build up the caliper, get rid of the seam, and then paint the calipers and everything, put the decals on, and they'll be all nice and look good then, rather than put them in at the end as Pocher suggests. No reason to not put them in at the end. There's no reason to not follow the instructions. There's no reason to do it my way other than I want to deal with the caliper and paint it all separately, rather than have to paint it all when it's on the model, you know, as a great big 8 scale model. So that's why I'm doing it now, and I'm going to do it at the same time as I do the rears. And then if I do mix a colour to get this, I'll probably do them something like this titanium gold or something like that, or even yellow. I don't know. We shall see. But I want them to match front and back. I don't want to have two different colours, so I'm going to do the four of them together. So it's now a case of screwing all this together. Now, again with the instructions, got our front subframe there. Again with these instructions, there's no sort of routine. It's just sort of follow along, just do it whatever. Although they are telling you here to fit the wishbones and the steering rack before you do any of this. Now, I don't think putting this part in here is appropriate right away, and if I can, I want to put the steering rack in after we fitted the arms. Otherwise it's going to be floating around in there, getting scratched, getting damaged, whereas once the arms are in with the uprights, we could just fit the steering rack and it should stay where it is. What I may actually do is, once it's in and all screwed up, I may actually, before I take these uprights off, is tape it. Put some tape around it to hold it in place when we take these uprights off again, because I don't think once these uprights are gone, I don't think there's anything else going to hold it in place. The other thing I've noticed is when you try and put this in, which way up does it go? Yes, it goes that way up. You can't get it in all the way. You can't get it physically to go in and work the way through. So what we need to do is undo that front cross member and move that to allow this to go in. So that's not going to be an issue. So right, I'm going to start off by putting these wishbones in. Now I have been belly aching all the way through this, keeping these separate and making sure I know which one is number 9 and which one is 11. But as you can see, okay, they go this way up. With the first thing I'm going to do is take this prop shaft out so that we don't go damaging anything. So you can see they go this way up with the recess in the top. So that's going to go into there. But as you can see, it won't physically fit. One pin is longer than the other, and the long pin goes forward. So I can put that in there, and it fits in there beautifully. Okay, so worth bearing in mind. Same with the bottom ones, you can't put them in the wrong way around, so that's good. Right, so we're going to get that out of the way. We're going to get our box of screws here. Okay, let's get that over there. So I'm going to get my magnetic screwdriver out and we'll get ready to go. Okay, so as you can see in the instructions here, they're asking us to put the steering column in, or the steering rack should I say, and then fit the upper and lower wishbones, and then come along and put these rods in for the suspension, and then fit the uprights. And I'm looking at this, and this rod is going through this upper wishbone. So I think it's going to be a lot easier to put the lower wishbone on first, then fit that rod, then fit the upper wishbone, then fit the upright, then put the steering rack in. That's what I'm going to try. If it doesn't work out, it's only screws, it can all be changed around. But I think that's going to be the easier way to do it without damaging anything, without anything getting scratched. So let's do that on one side first. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch both sides, but I think you probably want to see one side go together. So we'll do this side first. So I'm going to grab the lower wishbone, and I think that's the right one for this side. Yep, the long arm goes forward. So that is going to sit in there. Now I can't put this down because this is sticking out here. Okay, so it's going to make life a lot easier. Well, actually, if I put it down, it's likely to break something, so I won't bother. Okay, what I was going to do is take that piece out. That goes the wrong way up. Just so I can put it down. Okay, so I can rest that against there. I can grab one of these little pieces here and put that in there. Then I can grab a screw and get it correctly fitted onto the screwdriver. Come here. Easier said than done. And then drop that screw into there. This is where having threads cut makes life a lot easier for you. If you want to go and see Moss's build, he really struggled getting these in. Really did. I think he lost hours of his life actually doing this bit. That doesn't want to go in there. Let's try another one. Yeah, okay. I've probably got so much paint and clear coat in there it's affecting the fit. All I've got to do is just take a sander and sand some of the length away. Oops. Take a pair of tweezers. There we go, fits in there perfect now. Oh, come on. Stay where you are, please. Where did that piece go? There it is. That's upside down. There's like a flat side and a beveled side. I want the beveled side out. Just looks a bit better without the sharp edge. Okay, so we'll pick that screw up, get it correctly onto the screwdriver, and then drop that screw into there and screw it in a couple of turns. See if I can pick that one up. Nope. If you remember, we cut these threads way back in the very first part. Pick that screw up again, turn it round. Okay, so we can put those in. We're screwing plastic onto metal, so we don't want to be graunching anything down. Just want it to be enough to hold it in place. And the paint is acting almost like a thread lock. I just want to make sure they're down. There we go. So that's going to hold that wishbone in place. And then we've got these arms going on, and these are attached with screw B on the top and the bottom. Yes, so we need 2 screw Bs. So get a larger screwdriver out than the one we've been using. Get that on there ready. And we can get this in place. It almost looks like I've done something wrong here. Kind of looking at, they told us to use Springs SP-01 in the front. I'm wondering if it should be SP-02, you know, because that is pushed right over. Just going to look in the manual again. Hang on a second. It is correct. It just doesn't look like the drawing. When you look at this here, you can see this arm, and you know it's sort of sitting. It's almost like they're sort of just under. Whereas when you look at my model, it's way down. It needs to be sat like that sort of thing. It's very strange, but we shall persevere. So we'll put this one in here. Remember, these threads are already cut, so the screws go in nice and easy. And then that's going to come down to, okay, so we need to allow a bit of rock. So we will also slacken off this pivot here. There we go. So that can sit on there. We can pick that screw up. Just drop that one into there. Okay. So now you can see that's how our suspension's going to move. Okay, we'll go back and thread lock the screws and everything at a later date. Everything is very, very close. Okay, so now we're going to fit the upper wishbone. That's the wrong one. This is the correct one for this side. Okay, so that's going to sit in like that. So once again, I'm going to get a screw on here ready. Well done, Nigel. Get this wishbone in place. Get one of these brackets into there, like so. And then that screw can go in there. I just wish I could actually pick a screw up properly with it engaged in the head. Got some proper paint in that one. You can really feel that one pulling itself in. Grab another screw. And there we go. There we go, that's that done. Right, so I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to get the other side done and we'll have a look how it looks. Okay, so that's both sides done now. And I've gone around and sort of nipped the screws and everything. We'll go around with the thread lock in a minute. Right, so time to fit the uprights. So that one's going to go into there and that one's going to sit on there. So that's going to sit in there. That's going to sit on there. The screws for the top are L, which are the long ones that you can see. The M goes in the bottom, the L goes in the top. The M, M screw has like a built-in washer. The L screw is just plain. It's very long. I don't know why it's so long, but basically that's just going to screw into there, just like so. And then we're going to put a screw into the bottom, one of our M screws. Again, very long. I guess it's because they want the strength on the pivot. Okay, so the actual drive shaft there is affecting the steering. That's interesting. What if this side's the same? So I'll drop this side in the same. Just wonder if I've got the right around. Yeah, everything's correct. We may have to adjust. Where'd that screw go? There it is. Drop that down in there. Easier said than done. Yeah, we may need to put a radius on the end of that drive shaft. Yeah, that side's much better. It's really weird how this, you can see this just all twists around, but yeah, you see you've got the same problem there now. Okay. What it is, it's catching on that flange at the back. This one's actually catching on the flat at the front. If I take this out, it's all got a bit of play in it, but I'm not worried about that, because I think the reason they've done that, if everything was nice and solid and tight, if it was slightly out, you might have the tyres just sitting off, and it'll look awful with the tyres not having full contact with the ground. So they've got a little bit of play in there, and that will sort of guarantee that you get the tyres sat nice and square on the ground. So this is causing a problem. So I think really what we're going to have to do is either shorten this, or so we get that screw out there. That was a nightmare to put in, that screw. I might draw that hole out actually. What we're going to do, we're going to measure the core diameter. That's the smaller diameter. So if we go in with a 2mm drill, grab a 2mm drill, come here, 2mm drill. That should make that screw a lot less tight. Okay, so let's just try that in there again. Should have put the screw on the screwdriver first, Nige. It's better. Yeah, as you can see, it's fine on the front, it's on the back that it's fouling. So it's fouling on that edge there. If I push that forward, it's fouling on the flat now. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is radius the end of these off and somehow get these shafts to stay forward. What we'll do is we'll put a little bend in them. So we'll take that out again. If I'd have known this before, I would have done it before I painted it all. What we're going to do, we'll get a nice coarse sanding stick and we'll just sand a radius on there. We'll do the same on the other side. And then the other thing I want to do is tweak these shafts forward, so I hope I don't snap anything. I just want to put bend forward in them, so they stay forward. Okay. So we can tighten that screw up again. Oh, magnetic screwdrivers are a pain sometimes. Right. Okay, so this side needs to be sanded some more. I'll tell you what, I'll turn the camera off and I'll come back when it's all right. There we go. So I've basically put a radius. You can see in there, there's a radius on the end of that shaft. The other thing I've noticed, if you put some weight on it, it all becomes a lot freer. You can see now we can get steering on both left and right. Okay, so that's that done. I'm just going to tighten that screw to make sure that stays in place. In fact, I've got to take it off again to paint it. So that's that done. Now what I've done is tweaked those shafts forward. So as you can see now, they're sitting against those uprights. So, which is not correct to scale, but you know, it's all good. Okay, so with the weight of the model on there, we'll get a bit of sag in the suspension, and it will be a lot better. So now we need to look at fitting the steering rack. Now, as I said before, it won't go in because this is in the way. So what I'm going to do is undo this screw here and remove this cross member. And on this side here, I put a, you can see in there, I had a small rubber O-ring. You could use a small little plastic washer or a spacer or something. Just perhaps get a little piece of the sprue tab and drill a hole in it. Because what's happening is they've got a narrow, you see this side is narrow and this side is wide. And because they're using these screws with the integral washer, then it won't clamp down on there. So there's just lift this up. Okay, and pull it back. Be careful because that wiring loom is actually attached to the chassis. Just want to see if I can just pull this back to get it out of the way. I'm wondering if I can get this steering rack to go in from this side. Yes. There we go, we're almost through. It finally came free at the last second, right. So now we need a L screw. Just another one of these long ones. Try and get that properly on the end of the screwdriver. Come up from underneath. Oh dear, dear, dear. This is awkward. Grab an, I've just chopped one of the screws in the wrong compartment. We'll have to find that in a minute. So we get an L screw. This is very awkward. This is very awkward indeed. You need 3 hands for this. So that screw's picked up in there. Thumb stuck in there then. And I'm going to grab another L screw. Okay, and then I'll pick this up. Just put that into there. And there we go, that's the steering rack in. And then we can manipulate the cross member back into place, I hope. Or can we? Wow, that's awkward. so that's gone into place now, just like so. So I'll grab this. What screws were these? I don't remember. They were E screws. So there is an E screw in here somewhere that shouldn't be there. There it is. Gotcha. So push the cross member down, that can go back in there. Okay, and then I'm going to put this rubber O-ring back over. And put the one back in that side. Just tighten that screw down. That's that cross member held in place. Right, I've managed to break the super glue away from there, so not to worry. But the main thing was the glue stayed in that bit there that holds it in. That's good. Okay, so that's our steering taken care of. It's rubbing on something on those gaiters. It was just on the plastic. Maybe it's supposed to be like that, I don't know. So now we've got this piece here. Oh, by the way, I did those shock absorbers. You can see we've now got both thick ones for the rear, and we've got the thin ones on the front. Okay, so we've got this piece here, which is, this is KO1114, and if you're going to have it left-hand drive, you're going to put it in this side. If you're going to have it right-hand drive, you put it in that side. I think I'm going to be doing this left-hand drive because it's an Italian car, and Italian cars are left-hand drive in Italy. So that's going to simply drop onto there like so. So you can see that's in place there. And then we are going to put on the top of there, to hold that down, an E-screw. So I don't know why they're using an E-screw, because it's going into plastic. Okay, so that's going to go into there like so. I'm going to do that off camera because it's going to prove to be very awkward, I think. There we go, it's gone in. It's funny they're using an E-screw because this used to be, if you remember, when you look in the instructions, they call it up. It looks like it's a metal part. But it looks like they changed it in the design stage. Going down in, there we go. So now when we move that, okay, that's screwed up solid. I thought it would have some play in it. Blimey, that screw is seized up solid. There we go. So when we put the steering column in, it's got a right angle on the end of it, and it's going to move that, and that is what will give you your steering, as you can see. Okay, so there we go. Job done. So that, put our prop shaft back in. So that has been step 20, and we have done all of our parts, so we can cross them all off. I put a filler there so I knew which was the right hand side, and then as it turns out you can't put it together wrong anyway, it won't let you. So we can cross all of these off, they're all fitted. There we go, that's it. K#20. So now we're going on to fitting the rear subframe to the body. But no, we are not. We are going on to, don't Don't worry, I'll show you the thread lock in a sec. We are going to make a start on the engine. So we're going back to step 7. Oh, you want to see the thread lock. So I've got my Tamiya thread lock here. You don't have to use the Tamiya, you can use any old thread lock. I'd recommend the blue stuff. And what I'm going to do, I'll show you on this one here. Okay. I'm not going to do them all on camera because that's going to be like watching paint dry. Okay, so I'm going to stick this on the box because it's loading up the suspension. I'm going to take that screw out of there. Alright, I'm going to get this screw on here. I'm going to get my thread lock. It has a tiny little nozzle on the end. There's a bubble. I'm just going to deposit a tiny amount of thread lock on there. Okay, and put that through the hole. It doesn't matter you get thread lock on anything else. It only really works in a confined space. Okay, so that's gone through there, and we just come back. You can see it's all working freely, and that will dry off, and that will glue that thread in. You'll still be able to take the screw out, but it just holds it in there. We'll just do another one for you. Take that screw out of there. Tiny little drop of thread lock. He says, here it comes, there we go. That's a bit too much on there actually, so I'm going to wipe some of that away. Always keep the nozzle on because it will dry up in the end and it goes solid in the end. There we go. Simple as that. Okay, that's what it is. Liquid thread lock. Any of the blue ones. Be wary of the really strong ones. You just want the soft blue ones really. There's some great Loctite ones out there, but if it's coloured blue, it's like a French blue colour. That's the one you want. That sort of thing. All right, so I'm going to get the rest done, and then we'll be back. I'm not going to be doing it on the uprights because, as I said, I'm going to be taking the uprights off to paint them. But we can see here that it's all gone together. All very nice indeed. Right, okay, so as you can see here, step 7, starting on the engine. We're starting here with the intake manifold and all the plenums and everything here. We've got throttle bodies. So that's all going to go together and get painted nice. We've got these pipes on the back, which I don't know what they are. We're going to work out what they are. We've got these little tubes down here, which I don't know exactly where they go, but it may become very apparent. We'll have to look at some pictures of the real thing. And then when we go over the page, step 8, we're actually starting on the main engine itself. Now, I think I'm going to start on the main engine itself because what happens here is we build up the main engine, as you can see there. Okay, and then we're going to add the sump and everything, and then we're adding the transmission and the front cover and everything there. And then we start on with the accessories. Now, and then here you can see we started to add some wiring loom and everything. So we don't need the inlet manifold for a long while yet because we're going to build up the whole rear subframe and everything and then drop the engine in, and then we're going to put the inlet manifold on. So I'm going to leave the inlet manifold for now and just concentrate on the engine. Now I've got some pictures, so we're not going to do any of this. We're going to leave that for now. We're going to actually go back to step 8, which is here. And we're actually going to build the engine up. Now I saw something, as you can see here, we have the cam cover going onto the cylinder head, and in between there we're sandwiching it with these screws which actually hold the cam cover down. Now I saw somebody on YouTube, fantastic idea, was to open up those slots so that you could actually build the engine up, get it all painted, build up your intakes and everything, get them all painted, and then literally slide them in. So that's what I'm going to do, because basically I want to do all of step 8 without these intake manifolds and the fuel rails. Okay, and then I want to do all of step 9 and then paint it all silver, and then go around and do some detail painting and start adding some different colours and different textures, so you've got the variations in the colours. Again, hardly any of this is going to be seen, I keep saying it guys, but you know, it's for the fun of the build. It looks like a lot of it is screwed together, but I'm sure we can glue it as well so we can deal with some seams. don't know why they've got it all screwing together, to be honest, but it's all plastic and a lot of it is black. Well, the whole engine, I'll put a picture up if I think of it. The whole engine is supposed to be, it's all aluminium, it's all silver. The other thing to be wary of, these cam covers are black, okay, on the real car I'm talking, but remember these plastic parts, I believe they're black as well, but these front covers, the timing chain covers, part of this front here is part of that. So I think I'm right in saying that that is not going to be all black. I could be proven wrong, but just looking at images, it looks like there's a whole wide section on the front of the cam cover which is aluminium, but I could be proven wrong. So what we're going to do now is go and get the parts off the sprues for step 8. Just looking, we've got Q, Q, P, N, N, and here we've got M, N, N, R, P. So we may as well get all the parts off for steps 8 and 9, because we're just going to be literally assembling and not painting anything yet. So I'll see you back when I've done that. Okay, so I've got all the sprues. So we've got the great big bags. We've got the N sprue, we've got the Q sprue, we've got the M sprue, we've got the R sprue, and we've got the P sprue. So as you can see, we've got silver parts here, which is all well and good. Okay, this is if you're not going to paint it. We've got black parts here, which is all well and good. I mean, the fuel rails probably would have been like a plated colour, but we'll have a look at that on the reference pictures. And then we've got the cam covers here, black. As I say, I've got a feeling this part here is aluminium. We'll have a look. And then we've got our intake plenum there. We've got the Lamborghini on here we're going to have to pick out in a nice shiny silver colour. And then here we have the gearbox components and the dry sump, which is nice. And then here we have the cylinder heads, which are black and slide moulded, beautifully done. Very tough, very strong. And they should all be silver. These front covers should be silver. So I think in this stage we're actually going to be able to throw some sprues away, which would be lovely for getting everything back in that box. So starting off here, looking at the instructions, what they're asking us to do is put the fuel rail into the intakes here, which is R07, M05, R08, M06. And obviously these would have been silver, unless of course they're carbon fibre. I'll have to go and have a look. I should imagine they're in fact they may be black plastic. We'll have a look. We've got the warnings here about not cutting the pips off, and then the fuel rails, as I say, we'll have a look at those, what colour the injectors and everything would be, and we'll go from there. The actual cylinder heads going together, as I said, I'm going to do the little modification like I saw done on the YouTube video. I can't remember which one it was now, but thank you very much for that. It was a great tip. And then what we'll do is we'll put all this together, we'll put this together, we'll put these cylinder heads together, and then we can slot everything together after it's all painted and assembled. I'm hoping we can build the V up and then actually get the fuel rails in with it all built up. If not, we'll have to do the cylinder heads and those individually and then bolt it all together. So let's get some parts off the sprue and I'll come back. Okay, so we've got all the parts off the sprues. I've checked all these sprues and they all are working with the Tamiya extra thin and the extra thin quick setting. So so that's good news. If you want to glue all this together, you can. But there are many screws going to be used in this. I don't really know why, but anyway. So the way it's designed to go together, you take an inlet, set of inlet tracks, and you can see there I've actually managed to leave some bits of fluff in there, but I've sanded out all the seams and everything and got rid of all the seams on them, so they're all looking good. And then we're going to take a fuel rail with injectors, and that's all sanded to get rid of the seams as well. So that's going to go into there like that. Now these are engineered in such a way that you can you put them together wrong? Yes, you can. So you need to be careful. Okay, be very careful. When you look at it like this, you've got these two inlet ducts, inlet tracks, inlet manifolds, if you like. One has the pips here, one has the pips here. So look carefully at the drawings, and then look carefully here, and you can see that the mounting pegs, there's 3 mounting pegs on there. 1, 2, 3, and you've got the fuel pressure regulator on the end, and that's facing to the right. Okay, so that's going to go in there, that's okay. If you look at this one will actually fit, okay, but the fuel pressure regulator is on this end, so be a bit careful there. and this is going to be glued in, so we'll glue those in with some extra thin. But I really want to get this painted first, I think, because I've got a feeling all this is going to be different colours. I still haven't looked online. I will have a look in a minute and maybe put the pictures up for you. But you can see that's going to go in there. And then the idea here is to take a cylinder head, okay, I've got the right one, I was lucky, fit the cam cover, and then fit the timing cover onto the front. I'm assuming it's chain, not belt. Alright, so just fit that on there like so. That's going to be clamped and glued, I think, because that just wants to keep, you can see there, look, just wants to keep popping off, so we'll clamp that and glue it. And then we've got screws going up underneath, so you've got 2 H screws in here, and they are actually going to hold the cam cover down, and then you're going to fit this into this slot on the side, okay, and that's going to sit like that with the fuel rail on the outside. Alright, now what they're telling you to do now is put a couple of screws in here. I've obviously got the wrong side here. Yes, I've got the wrong cam cover, that's why it's not going together properly. You can see the way I identify the right one and wrong one, if you look on the back end, those 2 circles there line up. If you use the wrong one, they don't line up properly. Okay, so be sure to get the right one. So we'll put the right one in there, and then you can see those holes will line up, and you can put the screws in. Now, if you want to put those screws in, you can. Maybe it doesn't need them, I don't know. But what I saw that guy do, as I said on YouTube, I saw him, he cut this out like so. Okay, and then we just break that piece away. Alright, and then we get these screws, and the screws that are going in here are K. Should have got myself prepared, I'm sorry, I don't even have a screwdriver out ready. So take a screw K, and put that, oh come on, put that into our cam cover like so. We can just do it like this, we don't need to have the head in there, do we? This is the wrong screwdriver for the job as well. So we can screw that in there and then plonk it together and then slide that in there. Okay, so if you're building it out of the box, you don't need to cut these slots out. If you want to be able to paint the engine or paint the cylinder heads and slide this in after, then as you can see, that front one isn't holding it securely. It is now. Okay, so that's all pinched up, so now we can just undo those screws about 1/4 of a turn. We can slide that out, slide that in, it gives us a nice positive location. Let's just tighten them up a touch more. There we go. So, but if we've got to leave the cylinder head separate anyway, then you may as well just do that, because what we can't do, if I fit this to the top of the cylinder block, if you like, okay, then I won't be able to actually slide that out because the other side will be in the way. Okay, you can imagine that cylinder head will be there, so I won't be able to physically slide it out because that one will be in the way. So we have to do it as separate parts anyway, so I'm actually looking at this now and thinking there is no point in cutting those slots out because you have to build this separate anyway. So maybe the guy on YouTube discovered the same, and I don't think he talks on his videos, so he's just with music. So yeah, so that's an absolutely pointless exercise. There we go. So there we are. So what I'm going to do now is go and look at my reference pictures, see what colour all of this is. I'm not sure if this inlet manifold's plastic or aluminium or what it is, but we'll paint it all accordingly. We'll paint up the cylinder heads. I'm going to paint the cam covers separately and then do all the little bolt detail bits as well. So that should look pretty good. And obviously these should be aluminium, they shouldn't be black. All of this, I've got all the parts off for the next operation as well. We've got the two main transmission halves there. Okay, so there's those two. And then we've got the clutch cover, bell housing, whatever you want to call it, that's there. We've got the front cover there. We've got the oil filter and the oil filter housing there. From step, I can't remember which step it is now, I think it's about step 12, you fit the rear cover to the gearbox, or the transmission. So the transmission goes together like that, and then this cover goes on. It's going to be glued in place. Well, you may as well glue it in place now before you paint, and then you won't have a seam to deal with. But I'm going to deal with all these seams on here. Like I say, none of it's going to be seen, but it's going to look great. So there we are. So that's all that. Oh, and there's the dry sump there as well. So that sort of brings everything all together. That goes in there like that. It looks like they left off half the moulding for that circle there. And then the front cover is going to go like that here. So now you can see the sort of size this engine is going to be. It's massive. So that's going to go on there like that. It's a big old lump. Okay, so there we go. Right. So I think we'll call that a day for this video. I'm going to go and get some priming and painting done. And then when I come back for part 4, then we can start looking at getting everything together. I'm not really sure how much we can actually assemble. Obviously we can assemble the heads separately. These front covers, I need to look at the extent of the aluminium. I thought the aluminium went back further. I thought it went right back, but we'll have a look. But obviously if this is aluminium and this is black, there's no point in gluing them together first. We may as well fit them together afterwards, because if you use the right cam cover, then this will fit lovely without any issues and not pop off like it was before because I had the wrong one. Okay, so there we go. And you would have a seam around there anyway because it's a bolted joint, and there'll be gasket sealant and stuff in there, so don't worry about getting rid of the seam. I'll see you all soon for part 4. I say don't worry about darting around. I'm darting around the manual doing different bits and pieces. You don't have to. You can just start at step 1, work your way through. I'm not sort of going half of this step and half of that step and half of something else. I'm doing it, sheet by sheet, but just not in the order that Pocher wanted me to. As far as screwing this together, obviously you need to screw the cylinder heads to that top plate, because the screws have to go in here before you screw that top plate down. Okay, so that's all good. No worry about any seams here, because that seam will be covered up by the cylinder head, and the seams front and back will be covered up by the front and rear covers. So no worry about seams on there, so that can all be painted separately. When we get there, the sump is going to go on the bottom, again with 4 screws, and again there will be a seam. Okay, I mean, if you really want to, you could paint that joint, paint that face orange, and then when you bolt it together, like it's got a sealant in there, whatever they use. And then here again, you make sure you've got the clutch cover bolted to the back of the sump before you glue the gearbox on. Okay, because that's, there are screws, actually there are screws holding it together. That's good then. So make sure that goes on there first before that. It's all quite obvious. And then after we've done all that, we'll start with the detail work, the pulleys and everything. Alright, so if you want to learn more about this kit, then below this video there's a description. In that description there is a link that tells you, well, you just click on that link or highlight that link and Google will send you to the website. Please use that link, because you'll notice at the end of it, it says NMB, and that's a code specifically for my channel, and they will then see how much traffic I'm generating for them to know if it's worth working with me or not. So if you would like to see me review that Porsche 917, which looks gorgeous, click on that link below and maybe they'll send me one for review. Alright, thank you for watching. Bye for now.